Okay, I said that we were going to come back and talk about this Joe Scarborough controversy. And, we were talking about it this morning, and I said, honestly, I'm a little bit, as they say in London, gobsmacked, but we've decided to come up with an award because there's been so much happening in the world lately. So we have invented something called the Autism Ignorance Award, that from time to time, apparently, when somebody says something that is just so ignorant, we're going to give them a little bit of an award, because what else can you do? And so today's award goes hands down to Joe Scarborough. And if you don't know who he is, bless you, because you really should. I'm sorry. But he hosts on MSNBC something called Morning Joe. Oh, Joe. And I want to be kind, and I mentioned that later on in the program, we're going to have Lee Meriday on, a wonderful blogger who wrote a very clear and concise and kind blog last night about what Joe said. Joe, they were doing a segment yesterday on the tragedy that happened in Aurora, Colorado over the weekend. You know what I'm talking about, the shooting during the Batman premiere in that movie theater. Tragic, horrible, horrible event. And, when we came back yesterday, our first live show after it happened, it certainly weighed on my mind. It's been weighing on all of our minds. I did not mention it yesterday because, well, quite honestly, it has nothing to do with autism. And let's be honest, it has been covered a lot in the media in the last couple of days, and I saw absolutely no need to discuss it here on this program. And then Joe Scarborough opened his mouth, and I honestly do not know what he was thinking. And I will say this, I understand what it's like when you're sitting in front of a camera and you're talking, and a lot of what you're saying is not scripted. I completely get it. Sometimes you open your mouth and your brains fall out. Well, I don't know if that's what happened to Joe Scarborough yesterday, but I honestly am gobsmacked. And here is what he said. They were covering the tragedy in Colorado, and he started out by saying, it's not good to generalize. And you know what, Joe? That's when you should have stopped, right? Right there. It's like when people say, I don't want to offend you, and then they keep talking, and you know what's coming. They're going to offend you. Joe, just stop. But he said, I don't want to generalize. Not a good idea to generalize. But he said that the minute he heard about this, he knew what this was. He said, I knew it was a young white male, probably from an affluent neighborhood, disconnected from society. It happens time and time again. Most of it has to do with mental health. You have these people that are somewhere, I believe, probably on the autism scale. Oh no, Joe. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, what were you thinking? Then he went on to talk about the fact that his own son has Asperger's. He said, I don't know if that's the case here, but it happens more often than not. What? People that can walk around in society, they can function on college campuses, excuse me, they can even excel on college campuses, but are socially disconnected. He also went on to talk about the fact that some people with autism don't have a strong support network, and they face a terrible challenge on a daily basis. And he talked about the fact that his son has a support, but that, he left it open-ended about, he didn't know if his son didn't. He said, again, I don't know the specifics about this young man, but we see too many shooters bearing the same characteristics mentally. Okay. And again, we're going to talk about this with Lee Meriday, but here is what I want to say about this. Joe, I think you're confused. I think that you have heard about a social deficit and a disconnect from people, right? That goes hand in hand sometimes with an autism spectrum disorder. And you have confused that with being a sociopath. They are not one and the same thing. I am not a psychologist, but I'm trying to get somebody in here to talk about the difference who is knowledgeable. But Joe, to even those of us who are not experts, there is a clear distinction between these two things. And I have to be honest with you, your leap here, which is pure ignorance, I am appalled by and completely, there it is again, gobsmacked. I don't even know what to say to that. It is such a horrible leap for anyone to make that it's shocking to me. But the fact that you are a parent, Joe, that you would be the person making this leap and you are a parent, I have to say to you, Joe, come on now. And I'm worried for you, and I'm concerned for your relationship with your child, because you need to know that these are two entirely different things. And logically, I go back to early philosophy 101, when you learn about logic, if P then Q, right? You made an if P then Q kind of an assumption here that is just so wildly off the mark. Just because someone has a social deficit, right, and isn't necessarily somebody who feels a great deal of empathy does not mean that they go into a theater and open fire on people. And you know this because you have a child that is on the spectrum, so you know better. And your decision that it's just because he had a great support group, oh, Joe. This is really, really extreme ignorance. And I gotta say, on a very personal level, parent to parent, Joe, you need to get educated about what goes on with this disorder, because it is so vastly removed from what you're talking about. And your assumption that sociopaths are all on the autism spectrum is off base, really off base, and it's really dangerous. Because, when you make that kind of assumption and say, well, all these sociopaths, and I know you're saying, I don't know if that's the case with this child, but you're making a leap, right? Then other people are going to take that and turn around and think that all of these kids are capable of this horrible atrocity. Joe, let's talk. This is not, you've really messed this up here and made a leap that isn't there. I know that a lot of people are asking you to retract. I'm asking you to not only retract, but get educated for your child's sake and for all of us. If you don't know what you're talking about, please try to not open your mouth and have your brain spill out. That's all I'm saying.